Thank you, Duke, for sitting down with me. Now, you are the outgoing chair of the PBCC Plant Breeding Coordinating Committee. You've been in that position for 12 months, was the last time I talked with you when you were the incoming chair. Mm-hmm. What was the number one agenda item for you, and how did you guys do on that? What was your feeling on, the last 12 months? Did you make progress on that? How did it go?
I'm biased, but I thought it went pretty well. There was kind of two objectives. One was just some housekeeping. Every organization needs to have an operating document. We did not. And so information was always scattered all over the place, and it lived in various folders. So one of the things I personally took on was trying to get this organized. I'm kind of type A. But basically having this is how PBCC functions. This is our rules and bylaws. Here's all the information. So that was one kind of thing. The other one was one of our key functions as a coordinated committee is communicating with our state experimentation directors, our deans, and the information in the website, the database that they provide to us was terribly outdated. So I spent a lot of time scraping the internet and compiling a new database of all the AES directors, deans for the 1862, 1890, and 1994 land grants. This was another personal project because it just needed to get done. But as a larger group, the one thing that came out as something that we felt we could really contribute value on was germplasm transition planning. As you know, public plant breeding, there's a lot of programs that are, unfortunately are getting closed, and universities just aren't rehiring. So the question is how do you handle all that germplasm? It's a public good. It's been invested in by the public. And, as we started talking to colleagues, there was no consensus, and there's horror stories. One university literally just threw it all away. My home institution actually back in the 90s gave all their breeding germplasm to a private company for free with no MTA. And so it's been various stages like that. It's, people that are hired into breeding positions. The best situation is an overlap between the breeders, but a lot of times there's not. And so new people will start these labs and they're just well, I don't know what anything is. It's hard to make crosses and have trust in it because you're just man, this is my career. And so that's one thing we've been pushing hard on is, surveying the community, figuring out what the needs are. We're soliciting use case so that we can provide case studies to the community about what works well, what doesn't. And then so that's what started this year. We're continuing it for the upcoming year. And then we're actually planning on submitting a USDA conference grant so that next year we can have a separate meeting specifically about this topic to basically figure out how to do this the best way possible.
Sounds like I was doing an interview with your new incoming chair, Iago Hale, and he was saying how a big priority for him is the gap in breeding program transitions. So if a breeder leaves or a breeder passes away, something like that, there needs to be that support network in place.
Luckily, the Christian Tobias, our NEFA rep, was here, and we just point blank asked him, hey, is there a way that USDA, you could apply for a grant, a transition grant, and get some actual support? Because you know how it is, everybody's already super busy, and you ask them to be hey, I need you now to do this other thing. It's never going to happen. So that's kind of what we're interested in is how do we fit that niche?
As Iago comes in, takes over for you, what's your top piece of advice to him that he can, for how to be a successful chair for PBCC? I mean, you're always doing so many things. There's so much on the agenda. What's kind of the top thing you'd say, hey, watch out for this because, that might get you?
Mark, that's a tough question. I don't know. I mean, I've been working with Iago for the last 2 years. I don't think I have any specific advice. I think he's going to do really well in the position. We've seen how he operates. I think he has a lot of personal strength in terms of how he works within the group. I guess I would just say, Iago, build consensus. Because, one of the things about being a volunteer group is you got to get everybody on the same page. But yeah, I think he'll do great.
Speaking of building consensus, and you've got these comic books that you've been putting out to kind of communicate plant breeding to the public, government authorities and things. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, these are something actually Iago came up with. It was a great communication tool because science is hard to communicate to the general public. And so he was like, we just need something that's like easy, digestible, like it's pretty to look at, it summarizes everything. And so, he started these comics and they've been a wild success. I brought 30 copies of all 4 stories and they were gone the first day. Wow. And people loved them. I told him, I was like, hey, I've given them to my dean. Because, most people don't know what plant breeding is. Yeah. And so it was just like such a handy tool to be able to have this thing that you can give them. It's visually attractive. It sums it up nicely. And so, obviously we're going to keep doing those. We're always soliciting stories. Iago works pretty hard on putting it all together. He does a fantastic job. But they've been a really great communication tool. Yeah.
Last time I spoke to you, you're telling me about some of your work, specifically this idea of communicating with plants. What are you working on right now? What's kind of the big thing? That was 12 months ago. So has there been anything happen that exciting that you can report or that you'd like to report?
I think so this is a National Science Foundation Science and Technology Center grant that's being led by Ed Strook out of Cornell. It's been going pretty good. I mean, it's a large project and it's pretty ambitious. But the group as a whole, like they're doing some really cool like molecular reporters. So basically the plants are responding to specific stimuli. What was the one? My colleague Jesse Woodson's working on like optogenetics. So things that respond to like a light signal to induce gene expression. And so they're just now like kind of working out all those molecular switches. For myself personally, we have a transgenic plant that hopefully should be ready in the next year, 6 months. Chris Saskey just gave a talk. He did the work for us. But we've engineered a plant, so it's in cotton. So most cotton has like a very big, broad leaf, but there's a variety called okra. It has a very fine, it looks like a hemp leaf. And we've engineered the plant to basically, you can spray a chemical on it, dexamethasone. It's a very ubiquitous, pretty safe. It goes on the plant, turns on the gene, and changes the leaf shape of the plant.
Really? Wow.
And we're excited about this. So cotton is it's a perennial tree. So it can develop a pretty thick understory. And so once the plant starts getting taller, you're not getting light penetration. It's kind of inefficient for the plant as well. So the ultimate goal is that halfway through the season, a grower can spray their fields, change the leaf shape, so they can basically increase the light use efficiency of the plant. Those smaller leaves actually use less water too, so it improves water use efficiency. So for me, in Arizona, that's a key trait. Right now, we're in this unprecedented heat wave. It's going to be 30 days above 110. My cotton plants are struggling. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. It's all very exciting. It's coming together pretty nice.
Well, this year's meeting is taking place here in Greenville, South Carolina, NAPB. NAPB was actually founded by the PBCC. It was a PBCC initiative. Mm-hmm. What's been the highlight for you this year?
On a personal level, when NAPB started, they didn't have like a graduate student working group. And Shelby Ellison, who's here, she was one of the first grad students. And so when I joined, we kind of started the graduate student working group. And that's now been going on. And so through that capacity, I got to meet, as a grad student, I got to meet everybody in the community. And I, served as chair of the graduate student work group a couple times. So anyway, it's been like a family. And I hadn't been in this meeting for a while, just other conflicts. And so this one's been really fun because it's like getting to see all your friends again.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a good personal experience, starting as like a grad student, now being faculty or whatever, and watching everybody else's career come up. Because remember, your first meeting you go to as a grad student, you're like, oh my God, like this is going to take forever for my career to get going. And then, 9 years later, 10 years later, you're like, oh man, I'm old. And now I see other people here that they're older too.
What you mean about getting to know the people, and that's half the fun. So.
Yeah, like compared to like other like really large meetings, like plant and animal genome, like they're huge conferences, and there's like so much to do that you're trying to talk to people, but you're trying to go to the talks. The talks are only like 10 minutes. So you're not getting a ton out of them. So this one's just got a nice pace, and it is smaller. So I really like it.
Yeah, no, thanks for sitting down with me, Duke.
For sure. Appreciate it, Mark.